this lesson, we're going to read a news article together so you can improve all areas of your English. You'll expand your vocabulary, learn advanced grammar, and improve your pronunciation at the same time. And this article discusses a current event, the world tariffs that Donald Trump is imposing. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started. Our headline, Trump says he's ready to talk as new stock market losses fuel tariff chaos. First, notice the pronunciation here. This is one of many words that the spelling does not match the pronunciation. So just listen to how I say it and look at my mouth. Chaos. So this CH is pronounced as K. Chaos. And this is os, chaos. So there are two sounds, chaos. Chaos is a noun and it represents a state of total confusion. You can say the new policy at work created. This is a common verb used with the noun chaos. Created a lot of chaos, created a lot of confusion. Or you can commonly use the verb to be, in this case conjugated in the past simple with our subject, which is third person singular, the project it. The project was complete chaos. So you're just describing the project as chaos. So a state of total confusion. The project was chaos. That is very common. I'm sure sometimes you think the English language is complete chaos, but don't worry, I'm here to help. And notice I use the word complete to intensify it. Now let's look at this word, fuel. Notice that pronunciation. There are two sounds, fuel. Fuel. In this case, this functions as a verb. Fuel is also a noun. It is the liquid you put in your vehicle to make it work, fuel. But in this case, it's to fuel. So Trump says he's ready to talk as new stock market losses, something fuels something else. And in this case, it means to make stronger, to intensify. So the stock market losses, which is plural, they make the chaos, specifically the tariff chaos, stronger, so intensifies it. In this case, it's a negative meaning, but you can also use to fuel in a positive way. For example, you could say finding a better job fuels my motivation or my desire to become fluent, to learn English. Now here, notice this is conjugated in the third person singular because this gerund statement, so this sentence starts with a gerund verb. This is a gerund statement. It means it's a general statement. And this is conjugated as third person singular. It's conjugated as it. So finding a better job, it or this fuels my motivation. It makes my motivation stronger. It makes my desire stronger. So this is a very positive and strong statement. So if you're motivated to improve your English for whatever reason, finding a better job or whatever that may be, put let's go, because I'm motivated to help you. So put let's go in the comments. And don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Now let's keep going with the article. The big question, as stock market sell-offs point to another week of plunging markets in the US, is how much pain President Donald Trump is prepared to inflict to test his tariff theories. This is a very long sentence. Let's make it easy. So in this case, the big question, the important question. So that's big doesn't necessarily represent size here. It represents size of importance. So the important question. And all of this just provides additional information because you could say the big question is, and then this is the question, how much pain? But let's keep going here. The big question, as global stock sell-offs. So this represents people selling their stocks and globally. So not just in the US. So sell-offs represents people selling their stocks. And here let's look at point 2. In this context, it means indicates or suggests. So the global stock sell-off suggests another week of plunging markets, indicates another week of plunging markets. Plunging means the value of the stock is going down, and it's going down rapidly and at an intense pace. So that would be plunging. That's not what you want in the stock market. So now let's review this. The fact that people are selling their stocks, the global stock sell-off, suggests or indicates, points to another week of markets quickly and sharply declining, falling. So plunging is the adjective that describes that, a week of plunging markets and in the US. So this is the big question, is how much pain President Donald Trump is prepared to inflict. So notice this verb, you can inflict pain, which means to cause pain. So that's the verb to inflict. To test his tariff theories. So notice we have this TH here, theories, but it's an unvoiced. Tariff theories. Let's continue. Trump said Sunday evening that he's open to talking to world leaders about new deals. So notice here, he's open to talking. So we have the verb to be. You need to be open to, and then what do you notice here? To be open to doing something. So you need the ing. This is because this verb or this preposition to is part of the expression. So it functions as a preposition, and following a preposition, you need your verb in ing. This is a very useful expression. If you're open to something or doing something, it means you're willing to consider it. So it doesn't mean you will do it. You're just willing to consider it. So for example, in a job interview, they may ask you, are you open to relocating? Do you know what relocating means? Well, I wrote it here. It means changing locations. So that could mean that you work in one location in the city and you change to another location in the city. It could mean you move to a new city. It could mean you move to a new country or continent. So they want to know, are you willing to consider? So it doesn't mean that you will relocate. It's just that you're willing to discuss it. Now, to answer negatively, you would say, I'm not. So you would just make it negative, because remember, you need the verb to be. I'm not open to relocating. And you could also use a noun. So you could say, I'm not open to a move. So this would represent the noun, a move. It would be more common to use the verb here, but just to show you that you can use a noun. Are you enjoying this lesson? If you are, then I want to tell you about the Finally Fluent Academy. This is my premium training program where we study native English speakers from TV, movies, YouTube, and the news so you can improve your listening skills of fast English, expand your vocabulary with natural expressions, and learn advanced grammar easily. Plus, you'll have me as your personal coach. You can look in the description for the link to learn more, or you can go to my website and click on Finally Fluent Academy. Now let's continue with our lesson. Trump also claimed that he'd spoken. Okay, what does this represent? He'd. It represents he had spoken. He had spoken. And what about this sentence? He'd go if he had more time. What does this represent? Does it represent had? Well, grammatically, that wouldn't make sense. So you know it represents would. He would go. So this apostrophe D can represent had, in this case, the past perfect, or it can represent would, in this case, the conditional for an unreal hypothetical, because he doesn't have more time. And this is the past perfect because it's the past before another past action. He'd spoken. Notice how soft that is. He'd He had spoken to many countries, and that despite fury, repeat after me, fury abroad over his Liberation Day trade attacks. So this is just the name of his trade attacks enforcing tariffs on other countries. They're being nice. So notice this use of despite because it's used for a contrast. Putting trade tariffs on other countries or attacks is a negative, but being nice is a positive. So this word despite is used for that contrast. Let's review this sentence. I'm furious about the tariffs. You can also say I'm furious over the tariffs. And I included that because look, you have over here, despite fury abroad over his Liberation Day trade attacks. In this case, I wouldn't say despite fury about his trade attacks. It would be more common to say over. And did you notice the difference here? Fury is a noun. It represents extreme anger, and you may be more common with the adjective form, furious, which also represents extreme anger, but it's the adjective form. So you need to be furious. I'm furious about the tariffs or whatever you may be furious, extremely angry about. Now, remember we talked about the chaos of English because in this case, about is the more common option with the adjective form. Although technically you could say about here with the noun form, it would be more common to say over. So again, maybe a little bit of chaos with the English language, but I know you can do it. Let's continue on. But as he flew back to Washington aboard Air Force One, stocks tumbled at the opening in Tokyo. So again, tumble means to decline or fall, simply another word choice to describe what the stocks are doing. Before the choice was plummeted. Now, to me, that sounds extremely sharply. Tumbled sounds sharply, but not as extreme. And then fall, decline, it just sounds more neutral. So it's levels of severity in this case. So stocks tumbled at the opening in Tokyo, leading Asian markets downward. And U.S. futures suggested more huge losses are likely on Wall Street on Monday. Now, in this context of stocks and the economy, when they say on Wall Street, they mean in the stock market, and specifically in the U.S. stock market. And notice that preposition change because Wall Street is the name of a street in the US. So you could live on Wall Street and work on Wall Street. And we use the preposition on with streets. But in this case, you need in with the stock market, in the US stock market. So you could say, I lost a lot of money in the stock market, or I lost a lot of money on Wall Street, which represents the stock market. Now, my example used to lose money, the past simple, lost, but the opposite is not won. You would not say, I won a lot of money, just like you lose a soccer game and you win a soccer game. But in the stock market, and hopefully you will say this, I gained a lot of money, I earned a lot of money, or the most common, but the most casual as well, I made a lot of money. I made a lot of money in the stock market, or I made a lot of money on Wall Street. Let's hope that is the verb that you will use. Let's continue. What's going to happen with the market? So again, this represents the stock market. So you could say what's going to happen on Wall Street. I wouldn't say with Wall Street. I would just say on Wall Street, but with the market. And of course, if you're asking what's going to happen, you're asking, well, are stocks going to go up? Are they going to go down? What's going to happen? I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually it'll be a country like no other. So we have quotation marks here. So these words are coming from Donald Trump. Trump said. And eventually is an important word here because it means at some unknown point in the future. And that's why we have this it'll. So what does this represent? It will. And then as a contraction, it'll be. So very unstressed, just that dark L sound. It'll be. It'll be a country like no other. But this word eventually, some unknown time in the future. It could be 1 week. It could be 10 years. It's unknown. And remember, with the future simple, you use will and the base verb. It will be. And that's for all subjects. It will be a country like no other, Trump said, while downplaying stock losses. Okay, this is an important word. If you downplay something, in this case, stock losses, you make it sound like it's less important than it actually is. Now, in this case, the fact that he's downplaying, minimizing the importance of the issue being stock losses, this sounds negative. But we commonly use this verb to downplay. This is a verb. That's why it's conjugated in the ing form. This is commonly used as more of advice to someone. For example, let's say you just got a promotion and you worked really hard, but you say something like, oh, it's no big deal. Oh, it doesn't matter. I would say don't downplay your promotion. Don't make it sound less important than it is. And then I would remind you, it's a big deal. Let's go out and celebrate tonight. So just remember, this is a verb. In this case, it's in the imperative. Well, it's in the base verb because the sentence is in the imperative, the negative imperative. Don't downplay your promotion. In the past simple, she downplayed her promotion. So while downplaying in the ing form stock losses that have damaged the retirement accounts of millions of Americans. So this is why Trump shouldn't make these stock losses seem less important than they are, because they are impacting millions of Americans. So the retirement accounts, this represents the money that people have saved for their retirement. And one's retirement is the period of that person's life where they will no longer work because of age. I see a lot of grammatical mistakes when students try to use the word retirement in its different forms. In this case, it's an adjective. It describes the type of account, bank account, the retirement accounts. Now, you can say, I am retired. In this case, to be retired. So this is always in the ed form, and then your verb is the verb to be. This describes your current state, which means you're no longer employed because of your age. Now, I'm retiring next year. This is the present continuous of the verb to retire. The past simple, I retired 5 years ago. Or you could say, I spent the first few years of my retirement. So this is the noun form. Retirement is the noun form. I spent the first few years of my retirement traveling. So review these different ways to use the verb retire and the different forms. And don't downplay the importance of practice. So make sure you get a lot of practice with everything you're learning. I don't want anything to go down. So in this case, he means stocks to go down. So to fall, to decline, to lose their value. So you can say stocks declined, stocks went down. So in this case, your verb is go, and then you conjugate that depending on your subject and time reference. But sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. So this is more of a idiomatic expression. He's saying sometimes you have to endure something negative in order to gain something positive. This isn't necessarily a common expression, so you don't need to learn this, but that's what it means in this context. With markets closed over the weekend after days of pummeling losses. So notice this looks similar to the verb to plummet, but it looks similar, but it's not the same. Pummeling here represents repeated and severe losses. The verb to pummel is more of a boxing term. It's when you repeatedly hit something. So you can imagine the stock market was taking loss after loss after loss after loss. So pummeling losses. Don't confuse this with the verb to plummet, to plummet. So you could say after days of plummeting, going down sharply. The administration had the chance to take stock. This is interesting because we're talking about the stock market, but in this case, stock has nothing to do with the stock market or stocks that you buy and sell in the stock market. So to take stock, this means to pause and to reflect or carefully consider. So it sounds like the administration is going to pause so they can take some time to meet and discuss, consider, reflect on what's happening, what they want to do next. This is very commonly used at major events in our life. So after you graduate, after you get married, after you break up, after you find a job, after you lose a job. So we can use the example after retiring. So this is the verb to retire in the ing form because after is a preposition. After retiring, she took stock because your verb is take. So this is what you conjugate. This is in the past simple. She took stock of the next chapter in her life. So you take stock of something, and the of is usually the point in your life or the overall picture. So the administration took stock of the tariffs, for example, or of the stock market, of the next chapter in her life. So she had one chapter where her life involved working, and she has a new chapter, a new phase in her life where she isn't working anymore. So she needed to pause and reflect on her priorities, what she wants to do. So it's a very useful expression. Remember that take is your verb. But there is no fresh clarity over its strategy as the political stakes become more fraught. So as the political stakes become more fraught, it just sounds like there's more chaos, more uncertainty in the political arena, in the political world. And of course, that impacts everyone else, specifically those millions of Americans in the stock market. Let's continue. Top officials sent conflicting signals Sunday over whether Trump sees the economic warfare he unleashed last week as a lever for near-term deal making. Okay, so as a lever is a tool that helps you lift something. So in this case, his tariffs could be a lever, a tool that helps facilitate, helps make deal making happen. So deal making would be deals between two countries, for example. And of course, to benefit the US, that's why you would make a deal. And then the other country would want to benefit their own country as well. So as a lever, as a tool to make this happen. So let's continue. Or whether he's serious about a bid to remake the world economy that could take years. So this part is saying that top officials, so administration, politicians, top officials, they sent conflicting signals. Signals in this case meant messages. So maybe it's literally the way they communicated. In some communications, it sounded like these tariffs are only a tool to make deals faster, deals that of course benefit the US. But then other messages suggest that the Trump administration is serious about remaking the economy, but doing that could take years. So it's unclear what the real intention of the tariffs is. That's what this part is saying. And here, a bid to remake, this just means an effort or an attempt to remake. And when you add re before a verb, it means to do it again. So make the economy again, change the economy, of course, in a way that benefits the US. And that's the end of the article. So what I'll do now is I'll read the article again, and this time you can focus on my pronunciation. Trump says he's ready to talk as new stock market losses fuel tariff chaos. The big question as global stock sell-offs point to another week of plunging markets in the US is how much pain President Donald Trump is prepared to inflict to test his tariff theories. Trump said Sunday evening that he's open to talking to world leaders about new deals. Trump also claimed that he'd spoken to many countries and that despite fury abroad over his Liberation Day trade attacks, they're being very nice. But as he flew back to Washington aboard Air Force One, stocks tumbled at the opening in Tokyo, leading Asian markets downward, and U.S. futures suggested more huge losses are likely on Wall Street on Monday. What's going to happen with the market? I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger, and eventually it'll be a country like no other, Trump said, while downplaying stock losses that have damaged the retirement accounts of millions of Americans. I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something, he said. With markets closed over the weekend after days of pummeling losses, the administration had the chance to take stock, but there is no fresh clarity over its strategy as the political stakes become more fraught. Top officials sent conflicting signals Sunday over whether Trump sees the economic warfare he unleashed last week as a lever for near-term deal-making, or whether he's serious about a bid to remake the world economy that could take years. Do you want me to make another lesson just like this? If you do, put yes, 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 put yes, yes, yes in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for a link in the description. And here's another lesson you can watch right now.